Mr. Very first thing you have here in your list is a comprehensive negotiated military and corporate withdrawal date from Iraq. That does not imply a filibuster stopping funding for the war right now. Does it?
Sure.
I mean, aren't you in the same process?
Look, let's be candid. All of these appropriations come well before you're out of money. I mean, the appropriations that the Democrats passed go well into next year. And believe me, whoever the president is will be coming for more appropriations before they've run out of money. I think that's a red herring. I mean, the real question is, when you get a chance to talk to Democrats or Republicans or Democrats who are supporting Barack Obama, I mean, shouldn't there be a question that says, what's up with this call for 16 senators? Why doesn't Barack Obama just admit that he can't find 40 of his colleagues to end the war? And in fact, he can't even count himself among that group because he does not support getting out of the war in Iraq. I mean, when is the media going to stop pretending that this is the anti-war candidate? How can you be anti-war? How can you be for change? How can you be for changing the culture of Washington and voting for FISA bills, voting for the Patriot Act, doing everything that George Bush's regime wants you to do? And it's a long history with him. He supported the Class Action Reform Act. He supported the Energy Policy Act in 2005. That was a big, giveaway to the oil companies that were already making record profits. ExxonMobil had $36 billion in profits at that time. So, unfortunately, it's a long history for him.
But then, I mean, you could also say that, if we yank out all the troops, that in turn will leave Iraq and Afghanistan in turmoil. So how can we just set a date and just say we're going to take them out and not do anything?
Well, first of all, that's what a 6-month negotiated withdrawal would do. It would bring them. First of all, you knock the bottom out of the insurgency by giving Iraq and its oil back to the Iraqis. I mean, what's the argument with the insurgency? To get rid of the occupier invader. That's where they get their credibility among the Iraqi people. Second, in the 1950s, the Sunni, Shiites, and Kurds worked out a modest autonomy within a unified Iraq before the dictators took over. Okay, so in that 6-month period, the word negotiated means to get the autonomy in place under a unified Iraq, because they all want a unified Iraq. That's the way it is. I mean, to the extent that the turmoil in Iraq has declined, it's largely been due to the religious leaders and the tribal chiefs deciding to rearrange things so they wouldn't be, so it'd be easily divided and ruled. It's not because of the U.S., but the U.S. has a big chip, and that is getting out of Iraq is their last big chip, and certain things can be done, including a UN-sponsored election. The UN is pretty good in sponsoring elections in countries going through trouble, and that's what we really need, because the election 2-3 years ago was a military garrison election. There weren't even individual names on the ballot. It was clans. That's not what would be a stable prospect for the future. Plus continued humanitarian aid. It would take 6 months logistically just to get out of Iraq. I mean, that's so. In that period, you have negotiations. You have leverage because you're giving them back their country and their oil, which is a vast majority of the Iraqi people want. We keep saying Iraq is a sovereign country. Well, if it's a sovereign country, why don't we have a national referendum? Why don't you say have a national referendum and decide whether you want us in or out? They don't. Bush doesn't want that, for obvious reasons.
What is your gauge of the support that you have here in Texas versus other states, both in terms of fundraising and in terms of ideology? I mean, is this one of the tougher states that you visit?
No, actually, if we got on the ballot, it would be a good state for us, A, because it's a slam dunk Republican state for McCain. And people who would like the Democrats to prevail know that they don't have a chance here, so they might want to send a message. They might want to vote for someone they believe in for a change, rather than for a least worst. And so you don't want to exaggerate the number of progressives and liberals in Texas, but I think they've been underestimated. There are a lot of them in the closet still. And second, it's interesting what's happening. There's an increasing convergence of conservative libertarian opinion with liberal progressive opinion. I've met with Ron Paul, I've met with Bob Barr, and here's what we agree on. All of us don't like the Patriot Act, would have it repealed. All of us do not like corporate subsidies, handouts, giveaways, and bailouts, like is happening today, Wall Street to Washington. All of us think that the military war in Iraq should be ended, and we shouldn't engage in reckless threatening and invading other countries. And all of us would like to cut government waste of taxpayer dollars in specific categories. So you can see that more and more there's a convergence, and I think all of us would like a strong enforcement program against corporate crime, fraud, and abuse. There just is too weak criminal laws, too little budgets in the Justice Department to deal with that
What about
widespread crime
fundraising?
wave.
What about like just raw numbers? Like how does Texas
Oh,
stack
who has
up?
raw numbers? Nobody has raw numbers. I mean, the only raw number is if we were on the ballot, we'd get more votes, obviously, than a write-in.
In terms of fundraising though?
Fundraising can be pretty good here in Texas, actually. Yeah.
Has it been so far?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. But, you know, it is tempered by the realization that we're not formally on the ballot. People have to write in.
You gave us a prediction regarding the Trans-Texas corridor.
Yeah.
I'd like you to give me another one, if you would.
Pardon?
I'd like you to give us another one, if you would.
Another what?
Prediction regarding, you know, you've got a long history here.
Right.
Third-party candidates for president. Do you, what's your gut feeling? Look, you know, you're not gonna be here forever, and none of us are. Look down the road, 10, 20, 30 years.
Right.
Just today, you've talked about the increasing restrictions on third-party candidates.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going the wrong way as far as you're concerned. So I'd really be curious to know what your gut feeling is. Where are we going in this country?
You mean on third parties?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, no, I think we're just beginning to turn the corner. You can see that in certain judicial decisions. You can see that in attorney generals beginning to sniff the criminal activity of ballot access expulsion by whatever prevailing party. I mean, it has been getting worse. Since I wrote my first article on ballot access obstruction in 1959, it was getting worse and worse. More states, more signatures, shorter times, more harassment, more disqualifying petitioners. But I think it's hit bottom. In part to what we're doing around the country. Our former campaign manager is coming out with a devastating book on the subject. You know, she'll be going on TV and radio. I think there's such a basic unfairness that if you just expose it and publicize it, you're going to get a measurable amount of support. And you know, the judges read the newspapers too. They're really in the 1930s on candidates' rights. They're where they were on voter rights, and they have to be educated as well. Just to give you an example, in Ohio, we got 3 times in 2004 the requisite signatures. You can only get 15,000. You're required to get 5,000, but you can't get more than 15. So we got 15,000, and the state officials went to work on it. And a woman in Toledo got 800 signatures, all by herself. And they disqualified all 800 because her signature at age 52 did not match her signature when she was 21 and registered to vote in Toledo. It's just total arbitrary American-style fascism. And then you try to go to court and the judges don't like this and they're partisan to begin with and it's close to the election and they don't like, quote, political issues. So we have to turn that around. And the way to turn it around is one federal ballot access standard, clean and crisp for all candidates running for federal office, congressional or White House.